Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Gen Centracchio. We'll talk about what's going on in North Korea in just a bit. And rocker Ted Nugent, General, has made some possibly threatening comments, or at least that's what the CIA is looking at. We'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. First, let's talk about the scandal with the 11 members of the President's Secret Service advance team, and now we've known 10 members of the military. Apparently, they took prostitutes, found prostitutes in a hotel, brought them back to their room in Colombia. And the real question is, was the President's security compromised? What was your reaction when you heard this all go down?
Well, first of all, it was certainly a disappointment. I mean, you look at an elite team like this, you expect professionalism, you expect absolute discipline, you expect them to understand what the importance is of their mission. So when this happens, of course, you're disappointed. At the same time, I do not believe that the President's security was in jeopardy at all at this particular time. However, as the investigation unfolds, I think we may see that perhaps some information may have been given to those that don't have a need to know, and certainly would have compromised his security had those same investigators or individual personnel have followed through with the plan that they had been able to set on to begin with. So at this point, I don't think the President was in any particular jeopardy. But I guess the investigation will surely point that out.
Well, it was the advance team for the Latin American summit, and I guess the Joint Chiefs Chairman, General Martin Dempsey, is a little upset. He says no one is talking about what happened at the summit. They're all talking about this, but they're talking about this because this is a serious situation.
That's exactly the point, and I think this is perhaps during this administration probably one of the most significant embarrassments the President has had. When you look at the very purpose that he was there, considering this too perhaps was a very sensitive area, being Latin America and our stance with Cuba, this would have been an opportunity for him to make some kind of a showcase within the Latin American community. But instead it's taking second place, and this unfortunately is taking prime space in the media.
Is it far-fetched to say that possibly some of these women could be part of a terrorist group, that they were seeking some information?
No doubt about it. There's always that possibility. Probability perhaps very low, but the possibility is still there. And I think when you look at the overall possibilities, you would see that there was room for perhaps a compromise in reference to them being placed in a position of blackmail, or at least being sharing different information, sensitive information as to exactly why they were there, the places they were looking at to station themselves during the President's visit, and all those things surely would have compromised his visit.
Well, let's talk about what the security breach will be. And I remember when President Bush, the father, went to Governor DePreet's house up on Wilbur Avenue in Cranston, and I was working for a radio station back then, and we were going to cover it. And you had to go like about 2 weeks before, and they were already in the hotel and give your credentials, and they did a background check on you and everything. So they're well in advance of when the President is going to show up. So talk about what the security breach would have been.
Yeah, the security breach could have been if information was being shared with someone that did not have a need to know, such as we're looking at 5 specific places for us to be stationed for avenues of approach to the President from the time he left Air Force One to go to the summit. Which route was he taking? Which buildings would we be occupying? Who was going to be there? What was the size of the force? And those kinds of things. So all of that, if you put it together, could have certainly compromised the visit and perhaps subjected him to an attempt on his life.
So it's the travel plans and not any secret information, basically, that they were looking.
Travel plans, no. The route from the Air Force One into the summit, and exactly where he was going to be entering the summit, how long was he going to be there, the exact time they were looking for him to arrive. All those things are certainly ingredients to someone that would have wanted to plan an attack on him or an assassination attempt. Certainly would have been necessary ingredients.
Well, they've all been placed on leave. Director Mark Sullivan, you happy with his quick action, or was it not quick enough?
No, I think it was certainly quick enough. He understood this is pretty significant, and he took action immediately. And I think later on we'll find that after a thorough investigation, there were perhaps areas in the Secret Service that need to be fine-tuned as to exactly who was going to be given the primary responsibility, and ensuring that we don't have any kind of collective effort on the part of those agents that were so close that they were attempting to do this and lying about it on top of that.
Well, we keep talking about the Secret Service. There were also 10 members of the military, too, that I know they were disappointed about.
Exactly, certainly. Once again, you know, when you're representing the United States in any country, you need to be on your best behavior. You need to understand everyone is looking at you. And when this happens, it's certainly not setting our best foot forward, and we'll have a long time to recover from it.
It's not the first time something like this has happened.
No, I think we've seen past scenarios of this nature, but keeping in mind that you know, everything has its own set of possibilities. When you go into a country, you try to assimilate what that culture is. I'm not suggesting because prostitution is legal there, we should attempt to participate in that. But the point is that when you look at it from their point of view, no big deal, no big deal. This is really inconsequential. But it is from an American point of view. And then when you allow this kind of a scandal to unfold, you're certainly setting a precedent for us to make sure it never happens again.
General Dempsey says it's disappointing we're not talking about the Latin American summit. We'll talk about this, that this is probably the last time we're going to see that kind of summit, right?
Well, I think not only for this reason, and this didn't play a part in the leadership of the Latin American summit, but the statement was made that it perhaps would be the last one, even before the scandal unfolded, because of the United States' stance on Cuba and not allowing Cuba to participate in the summit. Now, unless we changed our mind, there would not be another one. So I think this is probably the last, as far as I can see, unless we have a tremendous change in our attitudes.
Does this hurt the president in November at all?
Well, I think it certainly doesn't help him. I'm not sure it's going to change anybody from looking at their vote for him. I think we're all intelligent enough to understand that, you know, he wasn't directly responsible for this, but at the same time, it can never help.
CIA is investigating rock and roll artist Ted Nugent. He made some comments. He was at an NRA meeting, and he was talking about President Obama, and he said if President Obama is reelected in November, either Ted Nugent would be dead or he would be in jail. Now, no one stopped him while he was saying that. The CIA and the Secret Service now are looking into backgrounds of Ted Nugent for possibly a threat to the president. What do you take those?
Certainly, you know, anything needs to be taken seriously. Threats like that, if it can be interpreted as a threat or, you know, grandstanding or saying something that you may be covered on in the media. If he's looking for any kind of coverage, he certainly got it. But at the same time, he now is a target for the CIA and certainly the Secret Service to look at him as a possible threat.
And no matter if it was Ted Nugent or Joe Smith,
anyone
they'd
else,
be looking at that too, right?
Joe the barber said something like that in his barber shop, and someone repeated it, he would certainly be a possible target.
Okay, moving on, the White House and the Pentagon voicing their regrets today for those newly published photographs that show U.S. troops posing with the bodies of dead insurgents in Afghanistan. We kind of thought we were past that at this point. We're seeing this again, General.
You know, once again, soldiers are under a tremendous amount of stress. Sometimes they do things which is the wrong thing, not thinking about it, but when it goes viral and it gets published, then it becomes a real problem. Things like this happen perhaps every single day in other scenarios, but when it's with the United States military, it's totally unacceptable. And this is exactly what we're seeing. What would seemingly be a photograph with some terrorist, it may seemingly be innocent, but when it's interpreted on a worldwide basis, it's wrong. And that's exactly what we're having to deal with.
Well, the president says those responsible will be held accountable. What would happen to them?
Well, they would probably, you know, if they were found to have done this with intent to do harm to the United States, that's one thing. If they did this with no intent and just a stupid mistake, they would certainly be disciplined from one extreme to another. Whose idea was it? Who perpetrated it? And what did your intentions? What were your intentions by doing this? And I think all that coupled will result in someone being held accountable and receiving necessary disciplinary action.
All right, let's talk about North Korea quickly. They're upset with the United States, United States idea of withholding food now to the country.
I don't know why they're upset. They were told this before they made the launch attempt. They were clearly, there was no doubt in their mind that if they made that attempt, as they did, that would negate any agreement we had with bringing food stuff into North Korea. They made the attempt. We followed through with our mission statement saying, you do this, we pull back and we renege on our agreement with you. It happened, so I don't know why they're obviously surprised, but their statement was that they will reprise the whole action, and they'll, in my opinion, probably go forward with some kind of a nuclear test.
This statement looking for sympathy from other countries like China and Russia?
Looking for world opinion to be on their side, but I don't think they're going to get it this time. Enough information went out ahead of it, letting them know that this would be the consequences.
And lastly, their launch last week didn't go as planned, or at least on their end.
No, it didn't. On the second stage, it just completely blew apart, and I think that's indicative of the fact that they don't have the kind of technology that they need to be able to not only launch the missile, but if their intentions were to put a satellite in space, that's another step higher. And if their intention somewhere down the road is to place a nuclear warhead on that missile, they have a long way to go.
Okay, General Centracchio, as always, thank you for your thoughts.
Good to be here.
Thanks for watching.